This season, no game week has seen more than 4 penalties scored. So far, up to the evening of Sunday game week 32, 73 penalties have been scored this season. As we saw a few weeks back, roughly 82 to 84% of penalties won are scored in the Premier League historically, and the ratio is consistent. This season incidentally has the highest goals per game ratio of the Premier League so far. It is also one of only 5 seasons where there have been 0.2 penalties or more scored per game. 2 of the seasons, this and 2010-11, appear in both lists. The average number of penalties per game from 1992-93 to present day is 0.17. Only the 99-2000 season, where 2.79 goals per game were scored, saw an average number of penalties per game. Otherwise, the top 10 seasons for goals per game saw an above average number of penalties per game, with the sole exception of 97-98, which saw 0.15 penalties per game. The average percentage of goals scored in a season that are penalties is 6.58%. The lowest season was 01-02, with a paltry 4.8% of goals scored being penalties, followed by the first ever Premier League season, 92-93, which saw 4.99% of goals scored being penalties. The highest proportion of goals scored as penalties was the 2006-07 season, which also saw the highest total overall of penalties scored in one season, 87. Next is the current season, showing again that teams like Liverpool and Bournemouth are enjoying a bonanza of goals in a season in which penalties seem easier to win. Because, and this is crucial, penalties are easier to win in some seasons. Penalties are discrete events, awarded at the say-so of a referee, while goals can come from a multitude of sources. Assuming, as we have, that penalties are scored at a fairly consistent rate, we might assume that seasons that see a lot of goals also see a lot of penalties. That would intuitively make sense, as penalties are a form of goal, and attacking play creates both goals and the chance to win and hence score penalties. But there is only a weak correlation between the two, between overall goals per game scored and penalties per game scored. Weirder still, there is a weak negative correlation between penalties scored and fouls won. If we look at the 14 seasons for which we have fouls per game data, we can see that the 2 seasons with the most fouls have an average or below average penalties per game, and the 3 seasons with the fewest fouls per game have slightly above average penalty per game counts. In other words, the 2 things that would most intuitively indicate why a lot of penalties are being scored, overall goal scoring and fouling, do not. So, whatever the reason for plenty of penalties being scored, there's no easy way to predict it in relation to other data. If there's a particular team or player you'd like to see featured in a future episode of By the Numbers, please leave a comment and let us know. Thanks for watching.